My family never thought I would ever resist, but I did it and sued them sitting in my room. I looked out the window at the rain pouring down like a bucket. Each drop hitting the glass felt like a symbol of all the tears I had shed over the past few months. I had always been an obedient son, fulfilling all my parents' demands, never daring to contradict them. But at some point, I realized that my life did not belong to me. I could no longer remain in the shadow of their expectations. From childhood, I was taught that family is sacred. I was supposed to follow their traditions, their dreams, and their plans. My parents, especially my mother, always dreamed of me becoming a doctor. They saw it not only as their pride but also as financial stability for the entire family. I remember being made to learn medical terms from an early age, reading books about the human body. I was like a puppet, controlled by their desires. But deep down, I always felt that this was not my path. I loved to paint, to create worlds on canvas, to express my thoughts and feelings through art. Every time I picked up a brush, I felt alive. But my parents did not understand this. They considered art a hobby for losers who could not achieve success in life. I tried to explain to them that it was my passion, but they merely brushed off my words. As the years went by, the tension grew. I graduated from school with honors, but instead of enrolling in an art academy as I had dreamed, I followed my parents' footsteps and enrolled in medical school. Every day I felt my soul dying. I sat in lectures, listening to anatomy and pharmacology, dreaming of the day I could break free from this burden. One gray day, as I was returning home after a long day at university, I saw my mother proudly showing my diplomas to the neighbors. I felt something break inside me. I didn't want to be what they wanted me to be. I wanted to be myself. This was a turning point. I decided that I could no longer endure this. I gathered all my works, which I had hidden from them, and began to think about how I could change my life. I understood that if I did not do this now, I would never be happy. I started looking for information on how to sue my parents. It sounded strange, but I felt it was the only way to show them that I would no longer be their puppet. I found a lawyer who agreed to help me. We drafted a lawsuit in which I demanded recognition of my right to make my own choices about my future and my profession. When I told my parents about this, their reaction was predictable. They were in shock, unable to believe that their obedient son could do such a thing. My mother cried, and my father began shouting, accusing me of betrayal. I felt my heart squeeze with pain, but at the same time, I felt relief. I had finally taken a step toward freedom. The court proceedings began a few weeks later. I was filled with anxiety and fear, but at the same time, I felt that this was my chance. My lawyer prepared me for what would happen, and I tried to stay confident. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to fight for my life. In the courtroom, I saw my parents looking defeated and confused. I felt guilty, but I understood that this was necessary. The judge began the hearing, and I told my story. I spoke about how long I had endured pressure from my parents, about my dreams, and how they had left me no choice. My parents tried to justify themselves, claiming they acted in my best interests. They talked about how they had tried to provide for my future, how they wanted me to be successful. But I knew that wasn't true. I didn't want their money or their notions of happiness. I wanted to be myself. After hearing both sides, the judge made a decision. He recognized that everyone has the right to choose their own destiny, and that pressure from parents should not be grounds for abandoning one's dreams. It was incredible. I felt tears of joy welling up in my eyes. I had won. When I left the courtroom, I felt free. I was no longer a puppet, no longer living by someone else's rules. I decided to enroll in the art academy and start a new life. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for it. My parents didn't immediately understand what had happened. They were furious and didn't want to talk to me. But I knew that they needed time to come to terms with my decisions, and I was willing to wait. One day, while I was working on a project for an exhibition, I received a message from my mother. She invited me to a family dinner. I was confused but decided it was a chance for both of us. I arrived at the dinner, and the atmosphere was tense. We talked about various things, but soon the conversation turned to my choices. I told them about my successes, how I had started exhibiting my work and receiving positive feedback. I saw their faces gradually change as they began to realize that I was truly happy. At the end of the evening, my mother approached me and said she was proud of me. Those were the most important words I had ever heard. Since then, our relationship began to improve. We started communicating more often, and I shared my successes with them. I understood that they still didn't fully accept my choice, but that didn't matter as much anymore. The main thing was that I had proved to myself and to them that I could be happy following my dreams. My life changed, and I was no longer afraid to be myself. I learned to value my freedom and understand that everyone has the right to their dreams. I became an artist, and this was just the beginning of my journey. I knew that many challenges lay ahead, but now I was ready for them. I was no longer a puppet, I was a person who controlled his own destiny.